This is Picking Up the Pixels, RPG Love, for March 2018. Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me, as always, is Musim.
Hello.
And Mina.
Hi.
Let's just dive right into it. Musim, what have you been playing this past month?
So the first game I'm going to talk about, I think is debatable about whether it should appear on our podcast, but it has tactical roots and light leveling up. And that is Into the Breach.
I was thinking about putting this on my list too. I've played like 5 minutes of it, but I'm like, is it an SRPG or is it like just a strategy game?
Like it's so strategy based, I think, and like you're still kind of making choices through it. So you have like a player agency that I think you'd see in like in a role playing game to a degree, even if like the stats aren't as big a deal, you know?
Yeah.
But
well, it's so good, I think we should talk about it no matter what.
Yeah. Talk about it.
That game is, like, I haven't played it a ton. I've cleared the first island twice.
It looks good from the screenshots.
It is hard. Like,
it's really good.
Like, the first time I went through, I cleared the island. I think I was, like, my grid power, which is how much... Your grid power is your overall health bar for the game. Like, once that's gone, you lose the game.
Real quick before we get too deep, for anyone that doesn't know what Into the Breach is, it's made by the same team that made FTL. So, like, your ship bar is basically your energy, your ship bar in FTL is basically your energy grid in this game, where when that's depleted, your whole run is over.
Yeah. And so, like, I finished that first island with only, like, 2 bars of that left, which means my buildings could only take, like, 2 hits. And, like, I think I saved, like, I upgraded a little bit and then went to, like, one mission on the next map and got completely obliterated. And before my last guy was dead, I sent them back in time to start a new game, which is, like, a really cool mechanic, like, in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it gives you kind of a roguelike feel in that you get one pilot with some abilities you can keep. And it, since you can do it mid-battle, like, it's a nice, crap, I'm out of here, I can at least save something, you know?
Right. I think part of what I really enjoy is they have almost taken... It feels very much like if Square were to make, like, a radical new front mission.
Yeah.
But what's so crazy about Into the Breach that I want to say is really evolutionary is... In every turn, you can not only see the turn order for all of your enemies, but you also see exactly what they're going to do. So you know before you take any moves, this guy's going to shoot this building, and this guy's going to, go heal this other unit, and you see all of their moves. So at that point, it almost becomes like a puzzle game, where you have to figure out, how am I going to start, like, pushing and moving and destroying enemy units so they hurt each other, or they don't shoot anything, or you drown them in water or lava. And it's so cool because there's no timer, thankfully, but you're just staring at this grid saying, all right, if I push this, then that goes, okay, and I do this, and, like, you start beautiful minding this board, and it's so cool.
Yeah, it'll let you move your guy, and you got an undo move button so you can go back, or if you completely screwed up your turn once per battle, you can activate this time thing where you'll go back to the beginning of that turn. And it'll undo all those actions. But, like, the hardest thing for me to get used to on here is, like, each battle is limited by the amount of turns you have, so you really just have to survive for that amount of turns. You don't have to kill everything. Right. And that is the most difficult part for me to get used to is, okay, my mechs can take a couple damage, like, as long as these buildings don't take damage, and as long as I'm going for these, these sub-objectives. so that I can, power up my mechs and repair my grid and things like that.
Yeah, and the game seems to really want you to protect the survivors and the civilians at all costs, right?
Yeah, I 100%. Like, I think that is way more important.
That's the objective.
Yeah, like, I've started actually just looking at my mech's health bars, and I've had plenty of situations where it is way more beneficial for me to just leave my mech in front of the guy so he won't hit a building than it is to move the mech to try and hit something or try and kill something.
Right.
They have a lot of different types of monsters in there. Like, I've really only sat down and played it twice. Like, both times I played through an island and started the second one. The second time I put it on easy mode, so I'm feeling a little bit better about that playthrough. But like, the second time I played through, like, one of these guys was making these ice platforms in the water, which I didn't know they could do.
Oh, cool.
And I'm still getting, like, the same up. Like, okay, so when you start the game, you get the 3 different mechs you get. You get, like, a stereotypical, like, Wanzer, Robotech-looking mech, kind of humanoid-ish, but kind of the
punching dude.
Yeah. More Robotech, or not Robotech, more Battletech or Mech Warrior than Gundam,
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a tank, and then you get a kind of this mobile artillery unit that's kind of on these 3 legs. And the mobile artillery unit has an upgrade that only costs 1 power that lets you shoot a building, not cause damage to the building, but push everything around the building away 1 square.
Oh, wow.
And that has been my go-to upgrade every time, because that has saved damage for me a lot. But at the same time, I'm also using that one to target my Wanzer-looking mech. Just because, like, enemies have a habit, like, most enemies, when they get close to you, they have a webbing that they'll ensnare you with. So you have to deal with that snare before you can actually do what you want to do with that mech. And that's just sacrificing a damage on my mech to be able to do what I want to do with him is usually worth it. But I don't know, that game is a real good flow. That game is good music, good vibe. I love all the intros. Like, every island is owned by a corporation, so you go there and you're talking to the CEO, and they're telling you what they want you to do, and it's just a really cool game. But
yeah.
Continuing on, I've been kind of taking just a grand tour around games that I would actually like to play through that I haven't, that I own. So I started out by turning on my SNES Classic, which has barely gotten touched since I bought it. And I started a game on Earthbound.
Yay!
I've never played Earthbound in my life. I think I played like half an hour Earthbound 0 before.
I found out you were playing Earthbound because I liked your tweet at the very beginning of the game of, like, how many more people do I have to name? It's like, yeah, your whole party.
Yeah, there's like a series of like 3 pictures I posted because it was, okay, cool, I get to name me, there's my dog, and oh, here's someone else, and here's someone else, and
what sort of food do you like?
Chili, that's what I went with.
Nice. Hopefully it's not like, oh man, what SMT game were we just talking about on Twitter? The Raido Kuzunawa.
Oh yeah,
Soulless Army one.
The Devil
where
Summoner.
you pick, yeah, Devil Summoner. I know, and I apologize that I just butchered that guy's name. You pick something you love at the beginning of the game, like something at the very, very end asks you, like, what do you really love in life? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, pizza maybe? I don't remember.
Man, that's I'll keep that in mind when and if I ever go back to that game. I've always meant
that
to,
game is so good. You just restart it.
So I didn't play very far into Earthbound. I only played kind of past the little intro where the meteor lands and you go up to it, and then you find out you have the most supportive parents in existence.
Yeah. Go on an adventure, it's cool.
Yeah, it's completely fine. Have fun. And then, like, everything you run into, like, you don't kill it, you just cause it to regain its senses, and it wanders off.
Faint or...
Yeah.
Because I was real worried the first like rabid dog I ran into or whatever they're called. And,
It becomes tame again.
yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
I was disappointed my dog like went on one adventure with me and then immediately left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's but anyway, so I went to the little town south of it, and that's about as far as I've gotten. But it's I don't know, it's got a lot of charm to it. It's the graphics are almost like Charlie Brown almost. It's I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it is. I would say that. I like that. I think even the creator said back when he was making the characters that like to Japanese people, these would look like Westerners to them. Like this is their example of Westerners. Because you're eventually going to go on a world tour. So where you're at right now in Eagle Land, you get it? Yes. So apparently, like Charlie Brown was like in that day was their kind of like their idea of what like a Westerners. I don't know how to describe it, but that's what they were aiming for.
Gotcha.
So it would be kind of understood to like a young Japanese child that this was. You know, that was what the goal was.
The land of eagles.
If you thought it was Charlie Brownish, then he did a good job and they achieved what they wanted.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's one of those games I've always meant to play. I already like it way better than my limited experience with Earthbound 0. So I feel like Earthbound 0 is probably one of those things where I already need to be a fan to really enjoy the limited interface of it.
It's such an old game, and honestly, when I think the creator himself said like Earthbound 0, if you play that game, you're gonna find a lot of like parallels to Earthbound, which is probably why we decided to go with Earthbound 0 for it in the West. But Earthbound was truly what he wanted to like make back when they made Earthbound 0 or Mother 1 as it's called.
Gotcha.
And when he was making Earthbound, like you should talk to NPCs. That's a big part of Earthbound is the NPCs. When he was actually making the script for all these characters, what he would do is he would sit in front of someone who was typing out like the characters' lines, and he would just say some lines, and if the person didn't have like a reaction to the lines, he would be like, scratch that, and he would try saying something else, and he'd keep doing something until he got like a reaction from the people who were typing. So a lot of the writing in that game should be amusing or funny, and some of it is kind of like the poop and fart joke humor sort of thing, but it's still comedy, and it's pretty good, and I think they did a really good job localizing this game.
Yeah, it's it's through and through pretty stylized. I mean, your save points are calling your dad, and like I don't know. There's a lot to appreciate in it. I think like because I have issues retaining information or conversation sometimes, so I already kind of forgot what I was supposed to do in this new area I went to. So I think I may try and find a decent walkthrough guide that doesn't spoil me too much to...
So, if you don't even want to do that, this was like, back in the old days, this blew my mind as a child, because it came with a walkthrough when you bought the actual SNES version, because it was like
came with a full guide.
Yeah, it was like an $80 game back in the day with
famously had
stuff.
the really big box.
Yeah, and
I saw that at a used game shop the other day, and it was going for $1,000. So I was like,
"Of course it is. Of course,
sounds about right.
It's rare." But I remember me and my dad going into the store, and when we were trying to pick out what game we wanted to buy for the Super Nintendo, my dad saw that box and like that price tag with the $80, and he was like, "What? That's so much more than the other games. Why would it be $80? And like that's why he bought it and brought it home to play.
I was gonna say that's a similar conversation my dad and I had when it came out, and then next to it was Chrono Trigger, and he's like, "Well, why don't you get this one?" I was like, "Okay, that's supposed to be cool too." And had Chrono Trigger stuff. So
we didn't get the Chrono Trigger.
Yeah,
my father was like, "What's in the $80?" My dad was a real what's the word for it? Someone who was really into like new technology. He was
mine was too.
way
it's like
into buying that
it's
stuff.
more. It has to be good.
It's more. It has to be better, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
he bought it. That's exactly why he bought it.
That's
But
awesome.
so inside the game, I think early on they make you get a town map, and with the town map, which should be from the library in the first town. So when you come down the path towards the first town, there should be a building right there on the path between.
I think I found
your
the
house.
town map. 'Cause
Okay,
I think
so
I have that. Yeah.
every town map will have, as long as you're in a town, obviously, there is a little hint guy. And he's carrying a sign that says hint, and he'll just be kind of dancing around, and you pay him like some currency, I forget, like in-game currency, I forget what it is, it's negligible. You give him that money, and he'll give you like a hint on where to go or what to do next. He's like, you're lost? You give me, I forget if it's like 150 in-game money. He'll be like, give me 150 and I'll tell you where you need to go, basically. And he'll flat out say, hey, sure seems odd that you haven't done this in a while.
Gotcha.
Hint,
So-
hint.
Gotcha.
and and I thought that was crazy as a kid, because I was like, no game has ever told me like where to go next.
Yeah.
I've always had to like break out a guide for that, but there was a little in-game character that told you, because this was before the days of having a little handy bar that says go here next.
Right.
So if you don't want to go and look up a guide or whatever, you can do that. Some things are like really, really obscure. I could walk through the entire Earthbound game from front to back and tell you exactly where to go next.
So just
point
text
by
Mina.
point.
Okay.
I can even give you the conversation that your father gives to you at the beginning of the game, because I remember, I love this game so much. If there
Man.
was a game that described like my game of a lifetime, it's Earthbound. I love it.
Well, and like hearing from fans, you're definitely not alone in that. Like the people who played
The
that
crazy
game love
fans.
it. So I'm
Yeah.
like I definitely kind of want to experience it. I'm still kind of in my tour mode, so I don't know which I'm going to go with. But I have this kind of attitude not to buy a whole lot of new games as they're coming out this year. Like Into the Breach was kind of an exception. I'd heard too many of the right things about it, and it turned out I had some money in my PayPal account I forgot about.
It looks
so
really good.
I bought it, but Earthbound is like I don't want to get everything in it. I think I just want to go through it and see the story and get an idea of what everyone loves about it. So
I can tell you where you need to go next. I already know. Based on our conversation.
okay, where do I need to go?
So the main goal of that game is you need to visit your sanctuary locations. So the game wants you to go to your first sanctuary location, which Buzz tells you at the beginning of the game is Giant Step. Giant Step is blocked off right now because the mayor has the hut locked and you can't get through it. It would be in the top left-hand side of your screen. However, since you can't get that and you need to get the mayor on your side to give you the key to get in there, he is having problems with the gang, the sharks, down to the south of town. Go to the south of town, beat up the sharks, beat up the boss down there, and go see the mayor after that. So go to the sharks down,
Beat up the
down
sharks.
below.
Got it.
Yeah, the
Like-
sharks is the gang.
Like I already ran into one of them and fought him, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I probably need another party member before I do this, and wondered. So,
no,
okay, it's
no,
coming
you
back
won't.
to me
You
now.
won't be getting a party member for a bit.
Oh, okay. All right.
You'll be beating a boss or 2 or 3 or 4 before you get your second party member. It's
Okay.
Trust me, you'll be really happy when you get that second party member. You'll be like, thank God.
Good. to
And
know.
if you have any problems with the next few areas, I can kind of lead you on where you're supposed to go. The cool thing is, when you finally get to beat the first real boss, I'm not telling you the boss or anything about it, but you'll get to the Giant Step and you'll record the melody on your sound stone or whatever. When you leave that place, all the monsters will be running away from you in the zone, because regardless of what level you are or whatever, they all run. And that is a good time to just kind of like get back attacks in, because you'll probably automatically win those back attacks and you'll just get free XP. And you
wow.
can really grind out a couple of levels and like, lickety split, because it's just like, whoa, here's your XP, whoa, here's your XP, and you don't have to go into the battle menu.
Nice.
So
good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, that's I'm primed. I'm ready to to go to my next session. So
yeah.
continuing my tour there and sticking with the SNES Classic, I booted up Secret of Mana. Secret of Mana is a game I've started dozens of times. I somehow managed to forget everything that is in the beginning of that game every time.
Sounds a lot like me.
Yeah, and like, plus it was also around the time that remake was coming out, and I really wanted to, I'd read all the negative reviews, and I don't know, I just wanted to play Secret of Mana, and as I was playing, I'm really having, like Secret of Mana is kind of a weirdly basic game in that, you're mainly like, you have your attack animations that you kind of have to be slightly aware of. The controls aren't like super great, but like playing it, I can't imagine how anyone could screw up like a remake of it.
Funny story.
They can. So they can. I want to kind of like bounce off back between what's going on in your game and what's happening when I played it. I will say, first of all, I think this game really benefits from having more than one person playing it. I feel like if you're playing this by yourself, you're getting a weaker experience because the ability of having a second person control another character and really either like kind of juggle or basically take care of some monsters that are happening over here so that you can take care of some of the monsters happening on the other side of the screen. Because otherwise you're just going to get back attacked over and over and over because the AI is terrible.
Does the remake support couch co-op?
So if you're going to buy this Secret of Mana game, I'm going to... And first of all, no version has online co-op unless you do some... unless you really mess around with, like, alternate... programs outside third-party stuff, tunneling and stuff, so that way you can kind of like have a controller hooked up, but have somebody basically from their computer, whatever, pressing the buttons that go to your computer, whatever. If you do that, sure. I have had a mess of a time trying to make it work on Steam. It was so frustrating, and this was supposed to be a birthday present. So it just wasn't going to work on Steam. So first of all, that was a waste of money, and I'm very mad about it. If you must buy this remake, you buy it on, like, I don't know if it's on the 360. I know it's on the PS4, or not 360, the Xbox One, or whatever other system it might be on. Buy it on a console, because you'll know that the controllers will work immediately. And you're not going to have to sit there with all the frustration in the world trying to plug in different controllers into your computer, because the way they have the game set up, if you plug in a second controller, I cannot even guarantee you that the two controllers that are plugged in your computer are going to control two different characters. It might just control the same one character, and no matter what config you try and make this thing do, it will only control one character. Now, there's some people out there who want to play with the controller, but for some reason the keyboard is automatically defaulting as player 1 and their controller is defaulting to player 2, so they can't play with the controller, but they're stuck with both the keyboard and the controller, and they can't make it, like, unsync.
What's so crazy about this is, like, I feel like what you've covered so far is what people think PC gaming is if the last time they tried PC gaming was, like, 10 years ago. Or even, like, 5 years ago. Like, now it's so many games are, you have it open, you plug in a PS4 or an Xbox controller of some variety. It works, and you're running, and the game's just running. And
it just works.
For Square to put out a game like this that is so fundamentally broken from so many levels is almost kind of impressive.
So now I'll get to the part that really upsets me, and this is like the next level of being upset. When I swing like a sword at a monster, I go, swing, alright? Mm-hmm. And then you expect the monster to react to that swing. I assume you should imagine to see a damage pop up, and
right.
like...
It's a video game that should take some damage.
Something should happen. 1 second. 2 second. Monster flops on its back. 3 second. 4 second. Damage pops up on the screen.
Oh my gosh.
All right?
Weird.
That is bad.
And I'm telling you, it is like... It's... I've heard people complain in the past about some other games that are like, oh my god, the frames on this game, it's like, I have to put up with, I could see how it's not reacting or whatever. This is like, anybody can feel this. There's no way, like, I'm pretty forgiving. I don't even care if something goes down even as low as like 20, 25 frames per second. I can deal with it. This is like... this is terrible.
Like, it's so fundamentally broken.
I can't even get into it right now. I'm so mad. So tell me this. Have you ever been hit by something that it didn't look like the enemy hit you?
No.
The enemy's on the other side of the screen and you take damage and then there was nothing to hit you, nothing on screen touched you, but you're taking damage.
That's so bad.
Yeah, that's not how the original
Constant.
works at all.
Wow.
Every time. Have you ever swung at an enemy and like your sword or weapon or whatever goes right through the enemy and it does nothing at all because you didn't hit the hitbox?
That's so bad.
Man, that is... How could they screw it up that bad?
Have you ever walked next to a wall and gotten your character stuck in a boss fight, unable to do anything about it, and you're just down one character for the boss fight?
Oh, this is how I die.
I didn't play.
Has that happened to you?
Far enough in to have both characters in a boss fight yet, but
I'm pretty sure it doesn't happen.
I'm
pretty sure it doesn't because this is like a beloved game, and I don't think that this would happen to any, like, this would be like something people would be like, this makes this game trash.
Right.
Because it happened to me. It happened to me, and I'm very upset about it. And I know I played this longer than the 2-hour requirement on refunds on Steam, alright? I realize that. I realize I've played what amounts to, I think it's like 4 or 5 hours I've put into it, and with all the frustrations I've had with it, I know I wasn't going to get a Steam refund. I made a huge list of complaints, sent it to Steam. They told me I played past the 2-hour mark. I had to write it out because I was frustrated.
You had to try.
I've never, ever tried to refund a single game off of Steam, and I've had garbage games, okay? But this is like, I think I'm more upset when it comes from a AAA developer.
Yeah.
Like, there's like this level of like, how could you do this to me? How could you sell me a $50 game or whatever it is, $40, $50 game, and it's so poorly made. Oh, and the other thing, and so I am not bothered by, I'm scratching because I'm freaking out over this. So the thing that bothers me on like another level is that they added voice acting to the game, which I don't care. Fine, that's fine. All right. And the characters, I don't even care how they look. I know some people have some problems that they're like, oh, I don't like how the sprites look. I'm fine with these sprites, actually. It's fine. What bothers me is characters will not have any sort of lips or mouth movement. They'll just be like, and words will come out, and then, or they'll be like, and you'll be hearing their voices, and it's like,
yeah, maybe they should have spent that budget that they spent on voice actors on, I don't know, whoever makes the play experience better instead.
Yeah.
All that money that you blew on these things, you could have put on something else. And this upsets me. I almost said a bad word. This upsets me so much, and I feel like I'm still playing this. I'm playing this game on console now with my husband because this was his birthday gift because he really likes Secret of Mana, and I enjoy playing it with the second person. It's a lot better with the second person because now I don't have to worry about the AI getting stuck in a wall. Well, I have one AI that could possibly get stuck in a wall, and it gets stuck in a wall a lot and just does nothing at that wall a lot.
Man.
But I mean, I just feel like this is so sad for a remake of this game. They would have been better not releasing it for... Nobody was waiting on this to be remade. You could have taken, like, a couple more years to polish it.
Yeah.
And really, like, number one, definitely you should have had, like, the multiplayer co-op thing across whatever. Mm-hmm. And number two, if you're only going to limit it to local co-op and you're going to put this on the PC, make sure it works. I shouldn't see, like,
basic stuff.
That's, like, one of people's biggest problems. Like, if you look at every thread and complaint, like, they're going to list, why can't I co-op? Yeah. That's going to be a major frustration. It shouldn't be like this.
Yeah, it shouldn't. I don't.
But if you have a Super NES Classic, it's good over there.
Every single indie co-op game I've purchased over the last couple of years has had 2-player controller support. Just like you don't even have to do any setup. You just plug 2 controllers into Steam, and it when me and Susie do this, we play on our Steam Link. So I literally have an Xbox controller and a PS4 controller or the Steam controller plugged into the Steam Link. And we're playing, right. Divinity Original Sin or what was the other one we played a bunch? It's not coming back to me. I really liked that game, too. Oh, well. But it doesn't matter. Because that other game was just like a tiny, team making a game. And yet that was still in it by default. So, I have to imagine, Steam has a lot of default functionality that you can probably call on for some of this stuff. And
it does.
I don't understand why Square wouldn't just... in their engines that they have, their various engines for their various games, have a default 2D overhead thing that already works that they just have to throw sprites on and adjust some of the timing for.
Yeah.
Well,
I know it's more complicated than that, but even
I agree. But when I tried to load up this game, it let me know that the developer has not made control specs for the game, and that I had to go to the community to get their key binds and stuff to the controllers.
Right.
Jeez.
Okay. And I mean, and then I'm so upset by this because I think the other thing that people are really, really mad about is that they know that Square has this bad policy on never ever fixing this stuff. Mm-hmm. They just let it sit out there and do nothing for it, and that's why people are really mad, because they know this is it. You're not going to get a patch.
Yeah,
you're not going to get anything.
That's all you get.
And I'm sorry I'm ranting about this, but it's very upsetting, and I don't think anybody should buy this version.
I mean, it's an expensive
Play the
remake.
SNES version.
It's $40 or $50, isn't it?
It's $40.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly it. I think I paid... So this has been like a $90 purchase, basically, is what this whole thing has amounted to.
Oof. That sucks.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry,
for a birthday present.
I'm sorry.
We can go back to your version, though. I just as this is a PSA... Play Musem's version. I wasn't even going to bring this up on PUP because I knew I was way too heated about it, but I mean...
Oh, take them to task, man.
This is BS.
Yeah.
BS. And I think that the thing is this is going to be overshadowed by the bigger thing that they've done. I don't know if we're going to bring that one up, but I didn't buy that either, because
the Chrono Trigger Steam release.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that one has overshadowed this debacle.
I mean, Chrono Trigger is a more popular game, but yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people are going to be way more upset about that.
Yeah.
So Musum, did you make it past the first hour of Secret of Mana this time?
Yeah. Well, and I've actually made it further in the past than I did this time. I used to actually own a Super Nintendo with it on it, and then I pawned that because I'm an idiot. And I think I sold it to a person, but maybe I did pawn it, or maybe that's why I traded in for my Sega Saturn. I don't. It doesn't matter.
Oh man.
There was mistakes were made, and in the past, I'd picked it up on the Wii Virtual Console, and that's the furthest I'd ever gotten by myself. was me and Susie had played that a whole bunch. This time I got past the tutorial boss, which I don't remember being what he was, because I kept, like, trying to not get hit, and whenever you get a certain distance away from him, he'll do, like, this thing
Wind
that
slash?
always hits you. Yeah, like he...
Yeah.
But I, like, I died a whole bunch on him, but luckily the game doesn't let you die in that battle, so I eventually got past there. And
that hitbox is weird because he does like a conal frontal swing with his two bladey arms or whatever.
Yeah.
And when I was standing behind him, I was getting hit by the bladey arm, so I guess it was more of an AoE that looked like a conal.
Well, and like the distance attack I'm talking about, like he swipes and it's
The
like
wind,
an air
the
thing.
swipe, and there's like a wind air cutter thing that.
But it follows you around the map. Like,
Yep.
It doesn't matter where you go. But anyway,
Yep.
I eventually got past him and got my second party character and got to see her chew out her dad and announce we're leaving and equipped her with the mana spear or whatever it is. And I think that's about where I left off on it. So I really didn't play that much in that. This might have been an hour. I was hoping to try and talk Susie into playing with me this time, but I've been unsuccessful. I will mention on the Super Nintendo Classic, if you ever pick that up, Best Buy sells a set of extension cords for the controllers that are $10.
Nice.
Because if you don't buy those, you will literally be 2.5 feet away from your TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Susie just texted me, okay, maybe I will.
It'll be a lot better of an experience if she does play with you, because there's a lot in that game where I tried to do it solo and...
Yeah. Well, I remember liking it a lot years and years ago when me and her played it on Wii. I just remember, like, I started it, like, back then I was like, hey, let's play a co-op game. Oh, I don't have the other character. Well, they'll show up eventually, right?
Yeah.
And they get to wait, like, a little bit for it to happen. But the other thing I forgot is how the game starts out with basically just, oh, you pulled that sword. You're a terrible person. Get out of our village.
Get out!
This is like the worst village I've ever met. And, like, I read a spoiler on the end, which I won't mention on here, but even that's like everything in this game is a downer. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
It kind of reminded me of, and it's not exactly the same situation, in Tales of Symphonia. At the very beginning of the game, you do something and your town banishes you as well, and they all really take you to task over it. And it was just kind of like, in the case of the beginning of Secret of Mana, like, the sword was going to get pulled at some point in, like, in the recent, in a very recent time period, it's going to happen. The fact that you're the one who pulled it out was just, you were there. So someone was going to at some point.
Yeah.
And your town going nuts over that is just that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because the game tells you, like, oh, it was going to awaken anyways. Well, what the heck?
Yeah. Give me a break here.
Like, nobody told me not to touch the sword, but, no one in the town told you that. But, like, in the case of, like, Tales of Symphonia, they tell you, like, don't go over there, don't do this one thing, and you do it anyways because, you're a good person.
Yeah.
And then you get banished for it, but at least that one makes a little more sense because your town had already told you specifically, don't do that. This town is just like, you did the thing that you weren't supposed to do that you didn't even know about, and now we're banishing you. You small child, screw you, get out.
And the
weird.
The only last thing I want to mention about Secret of Mana is I feel like the soundtrack is the soundtrack of the, like, it's the perfect, like, Super Nintendo reminiscent RPG soundtrack, and that's the one thing about the new version I want so badly. I want to hear it orchestrated.
Oh, yeah.
Because isn't that a thing they did?
Yeah. There's actually a button for me to switch from classic to... Or the new version versus the classic version. Or whatever.
Nice.
And I think that's the only thing I have no complaints about. I'm sure people will be like, oh, it doesn't sound like the original, I don't like it. But I'm like, you can just hit the little hit the little arrow, and you can play your classic version. It's there.
Like, if they ever re-release and ruin Xenogears like they did everything else, like, take that Creed orchestration version of that soundtrack and put it on there.
Are you sure you want a remastered version of that game if it's going to come out the way this one did?
I really don't.
Never.
But
do you want to see them ruin this? Look what they did to Chrono Trigger. Look what you would think that Chrono Trigger would get treated better.
Mina's like holding in your face. Look what they did to Chrono Trigger.
I'm sorry. I'm really worked up about that. I'm not even the biggest fan of Chrono Trigger, and I'm upset about it.
Yeah. Well, somebody had to out-Atlas Atlas in 2018, and it looks like Square Enix is going to do it.
Well, good.
Man.
So speaking of Atlas...
hey.
One of the other games I started playing is an Atlas game I picked up a long time ago for PS2 called Metal Saga.
I forgot about this game.
I know I've talked about this off and on throughout the years. I feel like every couple years I'm like, I really should play through Metal Saga, because it's a ridiculous game about nothing that takes place in like a almost Mad Max Wasteland style, area. And the game's a comedy game, so like right out the gate, the game's like, your mom is real worried about you going out to be a hunter, and she's like, why don't you just stay home and be a mechanic? If you choose mechanic, then the game ends and you get anything and it'd grow old. But like the game doesn't have a main plot line as its thing. Like, you kind of just go out and certain bounties will show up that are ridiculous looking, and you can recruit dogs with rocket launchers and artillery on their back to join your party, and I don't know, it's pretty entertaining. I was streaming while I was playing this, and I was like, the first area you go to, you have to let's see, I believe Electro Mastro asked in the chat if it's a Metal Max game. I believe it is.
I just looked up. It looks like it's part of the series. I think this is the only one we got in the US, though.
Yeah. And I believe they're all in the same kind of vein. Like, you go out, you get a tank type thing, and recruit your dog and get some party members and hunt down some bounties. So I haven't got the dog yet, but when I went to the junkyard, I realized I was getting lost again. And since I was on live stream, like, I'm just going to look up and see where I'm supposed to go. And I found a wonderful map, and I thought, I should do this for every area of the game and actually make it through the game. Because it is way easier when you know where to go, because it's pretty random encounter heavy. But it's I really like that game. I get to name stuff in that game too, and that one I went pretty creative with my naming. My wife suggested or maybe it was in one of the previous games. Oh right, in Secret of Mana I named my main character Bleep, and that was had such entertaining results. Like, just a town elder saying, "What have you done, Bleep?" Or like, just nice. Nice insinuations there. So I did the same thing here. So I named my main character Bleep. The first vehicle I found is they call it a buggy, but it looks kind of like a dune race car type thing, which I guess is kind of buggy-like. But I named it Sexual, which has produced equally entertaining results. And then beat the first boss, Trash Pile. And I forgot the vehicles have a upgrade system, not unlike the Wanzers in Front Mission. I feel like this podcast is going to make me play Front Mission. But because like you have a weight limit, for your vehicle, and you can switch out the weapons, which will increase the weight, and you can buy things to allow an increased weight, and it's a cool balance versus weight versus power versus what you have equipped. So, but it's a real charmer game. But I wouldn't recommend playing it without finding the maps like I did, because I think that's the key. Yeah. So, I also with the announcement of that new Shining Force, I realized I had a PS2 Shining Force I'd never beaten, and that is Shining Force EXA. So the like Shining Force Neo, I'd played a whole bunch of, and that game has atrocious acting and an atrocious, like, super story, dumb story. So this one, the voice acting is, it's not good. It is nowhere near as bad as the first. Like, the first is terrible. And I'd forgotten how bad the first ones was, and I looked up the old, like, I guess it was G4. I don't know. It was some video review that Adam Sessler was in. He was doing a skit in, and like still had hair.
Probably an early X-Play, maybe?
Yeah. And like, I didn't think about it, but like in the first game, you had a female mage, like, party member. And like, all the party members call out their move whenever they do it. And her thing is she always throws fireballs. So every time she throws a fireball, she yells, "Hot stuff coming your way." So... the entire, like, X-Play or G4 whatever skit was entirely on that. They had, like, an intern who kept trying to give Adam Sessler coffee, and that's all he could say. But luckily this one doesn't seem to be quite that obnoxious, but, like, you go in, I forget the main character's name, but you basically find a sword that's supposed to make you king. But you get the sword, it turns out it just unlocks this giant fortress thing, and the fortress thing has, like, a dog that's in charge of it. And the dog...
Sorry, I just Googled G4 Adam Sessler Shining Force, and someone posted on YouTube the whole video review. It says, "This classic RPG formula combined with anime-style look equal one average game. Hot stuff coming your way."
Yeah. The gameplay is very Diablo-esque. Like, it's very much that kind of isometric type view where you're attacking giant waves of enemies, and you have various powers you can call on. One of the things it does that Diablo doesn't that I always liked is, like, all the weapons are, like, measured in meters in terms of their attack distance, and
oh, nice.
Just, like, lots of little cool things like that. But so far, I'm nowhere into this game, and it's very simple. I want to beat it before September, before the new one comes out. The new one, we'll talk about that in a bit, I guess. Let's see. Real quick, I wasn't going to talk about Fire Emblem Heroes, but I have to mention that for their year anniversary thing, they very briefly had a rhythm game in it.
Ooh.
Yeah, they did.
Which is super freaking weird. But I played through that. Like, that was weird because, like, you could play it on easy or hard, but you got only one reward for either kind of thing, I think. Like, I don't think it doubled up on rewards like you usually could in that game. Am I wrong, Mina?
I only got the one reward.
Okay. Yeah. But that game is... I kind of reignited in that game and been diving in, but I'll kind of leave it off there. I don't think I have anything new to say about it. And then
Did you get any good pulls?
The last week, I've gotten I think about 5 stars.
Jeez.
Same here. That's about. Did you get the new? I can never say his name. The blue-haired guy.
Oh, the new spear guy. The guy from
Ephraim. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Ethereum or something.
Ethereum.
I have no idea.
Yes.
I have no idea.
Did you get him?
I didn't.
I did.
Nice.
I also got the so on that banner with, like, the, I don't know, the wedding banner, is it? I don't know what it is. What is it? No, it's a Valentine's Day banner. That's what it is. The one that has, like, the I'll never remember all their names. One of them's Hector.
Yeah.
I got the Hector, and I got the other green unit off of that one.
I don't remember who the green unit... Like, I got the green unit off that
girl.
one, and I got Lynn.
Lynn.
I don't...
Yeah.
Who was the other green unit on that?
I don't remember.
Oh, well.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got two other 5 stars. I don't remember who they were, but they weren't notable.
I got Ryoma's son. I don't remember his name.
Oh, I forget now. Dang it. It was just there and it's gone.
He has a lot of the same skills as the legendary warrior Ike, like, oddly enough.
Yeah.
And I forgot the other one. I got, like, it's so weird. Like, I kept trying to pull well, I'll call them Ethereum. I have no idea if that's right. And like wound up with like getting 2 other 5 stars instead. And one of them was Ryoma's Kid, and the other one was I want to say it was like a blue version of Liliana or something like that. And it was like a version of Liliana that I didn't have before, and I already have like 2 versions of her, and they all kind of look very similar. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was someone else. But I don't know. I'm really digging that game. I like the flow. I feel like they've made a lot of quality and life improvements that I approve of. I just wish that I could draw on banner for once in my life. I say that. I guess the last banner I did, but I got to quickly move over and try and get some of the weird evil versions of the characters because they look cool.
I was trying. I didn't succeed.
Well, we got
I failed.
2 days left, but I'm skeptical I'll be able to get enough orbs in 2 days to even draw once.
Failed.
So
yeah.
Speaking of failing and drawing things, Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the big 1.3 patch hit, and like if you have the season pass like I do, they gave you like 8 legendary cores, and
wow.
Is that for New Game Plus?
They give you the cores at any time. Most of the 1.3 patch is for they adds a New Game Plus. I think they call it Advanced Mode, and they add. I don't know how far you are into the game, so I don't want to spoil it. But they add a handful of.
It's the only game I got to talk about today. So.
Well, I mean, are you familiar with? I mean, basically, they add a lot of the Torna blades to it.
So I'll tell you how far I am in the game. I might as well just. This is the only. Are you Do you have any other games to talk about, or
this is it? I put this at the last of my list because I knew.
Well, then we're gonna have to combine the beginning of mine with the end of yours. Then, so I am at. I wrote this down because I know I'm not going to say it right, and I know that. I am at Port Anakham at the Empire of Mor Ardain, a.k.a. the 4th landmark option on your menu.
Gotcha.
I wrote that down. So that's where I am. So I just landed at the 4th landmark. It's just unlocked, and I haven't done anything beyond landing at that port. I'm still running around with only 3 rare blades that I've pulled. The first one I pulled... Oh, wait. That's right, because I haven't talked about it. I picked up Xenoblade 2 after the last podcast because Musim's conversation made me want to play this game, so I immediately started playing it. And I also beat Persona 5, but... This was like the first thing I did. Like as soon as I jumped off this podcast, I was like, "Let's play," and I played it. And then I even posted a tweet that night. I was like, I got my first pull, and it was Cosmos, the one we had talked about on the podcast. I was like I got Cosmos, the one we were literally talking about.
So check this out. So someone cracked the game and figured out like all the rates for how often you can, or what the percentage of you pulling something is. Cosmos has a 0.25% chance of being pulled off of a common core. And like the highest she gets when you get to like a legendary is like 0.8 or something. She is one of 3 rare blades until this DLC I guess hit that I am missing.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. Like I'm
going to walk you through what happened. All right, I'm going to walk you through this so that you can enjoy this. So I'm playing the game, and I'm really just going through the story, and I'm having a good time. I'm like, okay, I can't wait to get a new blade because I didn't realize that this game was going to be gotcha game the blades. All right, so I'm playing the game. I'm like so excited, and I get to the point of the game where you lose your party member. And while your party member's gone, they're like, well, you're going to need more blades if you're going to, go rescue that party member. And they hand you a free core. You open the free core, and you always get like a blade that's like one of those common looking ones, the garbage ones. Yeah. Like that's a guaranteed. So I got like some sort of wind healer, punchy blade, and I was like, oh, okay. And then, like, I got a common core, another one, a second one, and I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll get something good with this one. I was real excited. I was like, well, it could be garbage. It could be garbage, though, because Musum did say that, like, you get a lot of garbage cores. And I was like, so don't get too excited. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to go open it up anyways. And I opened it up. I didn't even care what I think you could put, like, a Brave boost or whatever. I don't remember which one I picked. I was like, okay, I'll just pick whatever. And I open it up, and I'm like, what is it going to be? And I see, like, the little, the Vector logo on the side of this machine, and I was like, oh, it's happening! I'm like, this has to be Cosmos! And, like, she pops out, I was like, oh my god! I'm like, I was like, frantically looking for my phone to, like, take a picture of it in the dark, and I'm, like, trying to snap a picture so that I can tweet it and send it to you. I was like, I got her!
I did.
So she was
awesome.
She was my first pull, and I was very excited. And then I posted like a couple pictures for my friends on another forum, and someone flipped out immediately when I posted that picture because he was like, I've put 500 hours into this game, cracking as many rare cores and legendary cores as possible, and he's like, just to get Cosmos, who's my last blade. And he's like, I have not obtained her yet. Yeah. And it's very upsetting.
There's a lot of memes on the Reddit about not getting Cosmos, too.
Yeah.
Like, as a common thing.
Yeah, so, like, the thing was my friend said the most amazing thing about my screenshot was you can see what level my character is, and you can tell where I am in the game because I'm missing that party member. So there's only one place I could be in the game at that very moment, and that's literally right where I am. The first second that you can open a core, and he's like, and Cosmos is on your screen. He's like, I feel incredibly trolled right now because you know that you didn't grind to get cores. It's impossible, not with your level. He's like, you wouldn't have been able to like grind in that many cores onto one character to get Cosmos and troll me. So he's like, I feel incredibly triggered by your picture.
Yeah. That's funny. That's awesome.
So,
well, I can tell you in More Ordain, so I'm going to tell you this without trying to spoil anything, and I don't remember how long it takes you to get behind this gate, but when you're in the dock area, there's a gate you can't go through. Okay. And I don't actually know how you open that, but you can get around it at one point, and I think you can do it your first visit there, but the enemies behind that gate are kind of difficult. What level are you actually before I tell you to do this?
I do not know what level I am. But like I said, I didn't actually tell you which other ones I have. I have Cosmos, I have Nim, and I have Korra. And Nim and Korra are on my second character.
Nim is the weird animal looking one, right?
Yes, Nim is the one that has like the two foxes on her shoulders. She looks like she was designed by like 5 different people.
Yeah.
Who were ordered to
like a lot of them kind of have that thing.
Okay, like it looked like someone was like, was ordered to like, you make the face, and then someone was like, now you make the arms, and then someone was like, you make the legs, and then the other person was like, you make the body, and they just like slapped it all together, and they were like, yeah, ship it out. It's good. Yeah. It's good.
So I looked up Korra. Yeah, she talks. She is as entertaining as is annoying with the amount that she talks and comments on things.
She's got pink and yellow and lightning bolts all over her, and she's super hyperactive.
Yeah, it's
at least her design at least works. Nim's does not.
Yeah, Nim is. They not all of these are designed great looking. I'll tell you that right now. It's always exciting to get one, but most of the really cool looking ones you can get through a side quest or something like that. But,
okay.
So there is right behind that door that you have to kind of finagle your way around. There is a salvaging point, and it's most likely to happen if you can get a golden cylinder or something and do it, but you will fight a giant fish, and I can't remember what level that fish is. I think it's level 35 or something like that, 35 to 40. And if you beat the fish, it drops a core for a specific rare blade. So put that on your list of things to do at some point.
I will.
But I've been talking to my friend who's beaten the game and has every blade in the game and just started a new game over to get the new Torna blades. And he's kind of encouraged me to continue on the story because I'm at the end of I'm at a place in Chapter 8 that I imagine isn't too long before I hit Chapter 9. And I've been kind of just going off questing, trying to... Because, a lot of the blades, they'll have kill X number of monster to get this ability. And that's how a lot of their skill tree works. So I've been kind of hunting around for those specific monsters to do this. And I have... I'm at 140 hours or something ridiculous.
Wow.
I know some of that's pause time, but I play this thing. I play the Switch undocked a lot, so
same.
There's a limit to the amount of that pause time that can happen before that thing puts itself to sleep. So So
any hours I have on that, if it tells me that I've played a lot of hours, it is not because it was just undocked, paused somewhere.
Yeah.
Some of it maybe, but there's no way that thing was just idling undocked.
But I've been stuck in the my level 60s area for a while now, and I'm getting a lot of blade quests that ends in a level 90 monster that is just obliterating me. And even some of the lower ones, I got I forgot his name. He's the Nopon god, Boreas. I got to the last stage of Boreas's quest, and the guy was level 60. I'm I'm level 60 something. This will be easy, and that was not. That guy's obliterating me, and I texted my friend and beat the game. He's like, "Yeah, no, that guy's." What did he say? He said, "That guy's not my friend," and that he was level 80 or something when he finally went back and took him out or something. But anyway, I still really like this game. I'm kind of winding down a little bit on it, so I think I'm going to go through this next story quest when I get a chance. I've been kind of limited on time due to, well, one, me playing, I guess, a bunch of random games, and two, work's been pretty busy lately. But I don't know. How did I set your expectations for the story, Mina, and how was I on? Was I off?
So I went in with pretty low expectations. I think I'm not too upset by the voice acting. I think some of it's a little. I think I'm going to get used to Rex. I'm pretty sure. I think just the initial voice he has is a little strange, and I had to get used to it. I was totally fine with Nia's voice. That was immediately oh, I love it. Immediately, right away. And I've been okay with a lot of the other voices. I thought it was pretty interesting that the voices that they've, at least so far with the rare blades that I've obtained, they lack any sort of, how do I put this? They don't have a strong accent that's different from just the very neutral American accent that we have.
Oh yeah.
I call it neutral because there's very little distinction.
It's that newscaster accent, the real flat.
Yeah. Which is every blade seems to have a pretty neutral accent that I can tell. But all the characters themselves have a very you can tell that this person and this person grew up in two different parts of somewhere in Europe. They're clearly they've got distinct accents, even within just England. They clearly, this one grew up in this city and this one grew up in this city, and I don't even know accents that well, and I know that they're not next door neighbors.
I think the only thing Rex does that annoys me is when you miss the final prompt when you're salvaging, and he goes, "Whoa!" I hate it so much. 'Cause he's not. I could tell the voice actor's not sold on it and just toning it down to not peak the mic or whatever, and it drives me crazy. And it's not that I necessarily want it to be. I don't know. I hate it. Luckily, I don't miss that prompt much anymore. I've adapted.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think the story is, I don't think it's, like, completely terrible. I don't think it's, like, the best story ever, either. Like, I'm somewhere in the middle, I guess, is where I'm at.
I really just think it's kind of bland, like, is my thing, but...
It's not good or bad, I would say. It at least passes for me. It's not causing any sort of distraction. I think there's like a couple of things that they could have done better here and there. I am enjoying it, and from what I've heard from other people, the game's tone and story like really takes a shift as you go further on into it. The beginning part is a little more like that sort of like friends and whatever friendship sort of behavior. Oh my gosh, he does actually say that. He does actually say that. I thought you were joking, and he actually shouted that stupid, like, the power of friendship nonsense or whatever.
I'll save you with the power of friendship.
Yep.
I thought you were BSing me, and I got into it, and I was like, whoa, you're right.
I gotta work on my Johnny Young Bosch impression.
It was funny, but I mean, I guess I think the other thing, if I could make this one tiny complaint, and this is something that I have a complaint with the Tales of series as well, and I mean, I'm telling you, I love Tales of games, but if they could just cut down the characters shouting out stuff by like
Blazing
50%. 50%.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, 50%. Not even, like, I'm not saying, like, 75%. I'm just, like, cut it down to half.
Yeah.
They don't need to say it every time. They can just shout it, like, maybe you'll hear it once a battle.
Hot stuff coming through.
You know? or maybe they could have recorded, like, more things that a person could say. Like, give them, like, 60 different dialogues that they could say. Just, like, 60 little snippets that you could throw in there. Like, I remember doing Persona 4, and I was never bothered by Rise saying any sort of battle command. It never grated on my nerves whenever she shouted out, like, you know, "Are you all right, senpai?" or something like that. It never.
Someone help
like,
senpai, he's down.
Like she had 20 things to say whenever you got knocked on the ground.
I was about to say, famously, there's a trophy. She has like 260 things to say total.
Hardcore reset, man. Yeah, but it's like, you know, the little variety goes a long way. If I start to notice too much that the characters are repeating the lines over and over and over, you gotta fix it.
Especially
either
during like difficult boss battles. You have to sit through a whole cutscene, and then you got a whole nother battle of hot stuff coming through for about 20 minutes.
The boss battles in Xenoblade are long, too.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So that last one I did, the last one with I'm not going to spoil it, but there were two people with their two blades, and
I think I already know the one you're talking about. This was over in
the town, near the town, at the ruins or whatever it was called.
Yeah, this was the one inside the...
It looked like a half-shaped Colosseum sort of thing, like someone carved out the half of it, and it's...
That was tough. That was really hard for me to play.
Woo! So the one upside is whenever you fail a boss battle, it just kind of drops you outside of the arena of the boss battle, and you can just decide, like, yo, I don't want to go do that boss battle because that was tough. That was tough. And the other nice thing is, I don't know if you failed on that boss like I did.
I failed a bunch. I actually failed a bunch,
okay.
And then I went and did some side quests and leveled up a bit, and then came back.
So before you get to there the first time, you're missing something in your party. And I was like thinking to myself, when I lost, I was like, I'm gonna have to grind without that thing in my party, and that's gonna leave me under-leveled. They make sure to fill out your entire party as if, like, you're like, oh, you couldn't do that boss? Take everybody back. Go grind everyone.
Cool. Yeah.
And I was like, Thank God. Because I needed to level everyone.
Well, and sometimes, like, I've encountered this too, where I'll have a real hard boss fight, and I just gotta switch out some blades or switch out some party members to adjust for whatever their elemental weaknesses is, or make sure, like, sometimes I don't have a tank in my party, and you really need to always have, like, a healer tank damager. Like, you need that flow, like, somehow. Like, you can disperse it up between your guys, but there's no telling which the AI is going to go to. So I tend to just say, okay, you are definitively going to be a tank this battle.
You know what sound I also hate in battle? I'm gonna say it real quick. Meh. That's it.
The no pawns with the just constantly.
Meh. 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 Just constantly, just the mehing over and over, like 100 times per battle, and that's probably not even exaggeration on the mez that I hear.
Yeah, I'm not super fond of using, like, I remember liking in the original Xenoblade Chronicles, like, it seemed like they gave the original Nopon, like, a deep, like, Scottish actor or something like that. Like, I remember, like, kind of liking the juxtaposition of that Nopon's voice actor with that Nopon. This one is just, like, slightly high-pitched and annoying.
Too much. It's too much. Pull back just a little bit. 50%.
Yeah.
Cut 50% of that, the voices out, and it would be an infinitely better game.
Yeah.
So I know I shouldn't be dragging this on anymore. So that is all I have to say about that game. I'm still going to play more of it. I kind of stopped because I had to play through Persona 5. And Boston, what have you been playing?
I two short things and a longer thing here. I was gonna talk about the Yakuza 6 demo, but those plans didn't work. If anyone didn't follow this interesting turn of events, Sega released a demo for Yakuza 6. It's like Song of Life is a subtitle or something like that. And the cool thing they were doing was basically all of your trophies and your saves would copy over to the full release. And they said it's basically like the prologue and maybe a little bit of the first chapter. And they also said, well, you can by downloading this, you get a head start on the installing the full version when that comes out in April. I was like, oh, cool. That all sounds great. What accidentally happened is they released the full version of the game, like the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
So what was supposed to be a 12 gig download turned out to be a 36 and change gig download, and it was just full Yakuza 6. I managed to download it when the demo came out because I wanted to play the demo. And then by the time I got to Yakuza 6, it had already been locked from the platform side, so I can't even load it. So, sort of a bummer, but 100% understand Sega saying, like, hey, it's not coming out for, like, another month and a half, so let's lock this thing down.
I've heard people complain that they should have access to it anyways, and I disagree with that. I disagree.
My biggest problem is the Yakuza series needs so much support that I would prefer if the demo, like the real demo, would come out, allowing people to try it, and then not have this swath of people that accidentally got the full game. I'm a little bummed because I didn't get to try it, but I'm going to buy it. I mean, I still have it pre-ordered. I did really like Sega's response, where it's like, they basically said, like, some people were worried that they're going to get banned from PSN because you played it. No one's going to ban you. Like, we're not pushing for that. And they said, if you got it and you downloaded it and you played it, like, great, you got a potentially really long taste at Yakuza 6.
Yeah.
If you liked it, go buy it. It'll be out in, the middle of April.
Yep.
So I thought that was cool. And, in contrast to Atlas having a really bad 2017, it's nice for some RPG developer to come out and be pretty cool about something that was an accident.
Yeah.
So as much as I want to talk about that, if the demo, it's so close to the game coming out now that I probably won't try the demo because I know I'm just going to play it anyway. So that was sort of the window for that. A second game that I'm not really going to talk about too much is the recent Game Club game, West of Loathing. If you're listening to this on release, we have about 2 more weeks until we record the recap episode. This game is about 6 hours long, so you can bang it out if you really want. I know Musum talked about this earlier, and I don't have a ton to add to it. It is a 2D stick figure based Wild West RPG. And it is one of the few games that has genuinely really clever writing. It's not always laugh out loud, sometimes it is, but there's some really, really clever stuff in there. We'll get into it during the Game Club recording over in TVGP, but so far my one of my favorite areas so far has been, let me pull up the name here because I had to write down the name because it's so ridiculous. It was Ghostwood, which is a town that is obsessed with bureaucracy, and you spend probably an hour bouncing between buildings until you get the right combination of paperwork and writing utensils to finish this quest. And it's so ridiculous and so good. And I cannot recommend it. I think it's like $10 on Steam. And it seems like one of those games that I will probably play through maybe once a year because the amount of stuff in that game that unlocks, depending on how you build your character or which character class you pick or all that stuff is so wildly divergent, and it's so good. I can't recommend it enough, and I'm glad it came up in the random selector here for Game Club because I feel like I might have missed out on this otherwise. Alright, last but not least, I think this is a game that Mina played. I have finished now 1.5 playthroughs of South Park: The Fractured Butthole.
Yeah.
I have a lot to say about this game. I'm a little disappointed by how short it is. Sort of that's my biggest negative. My first playthrough was 15 hours, and I completed everything except for the one selfie you need to pay $5,000 to get.
Let me see how long I've played. Keep going.
And I'm on and that was me getting almost all the trophies for the platinum. I misunderstood the trophy called the token experience, where you have to play through the game as a black character on the hardest difficulty.
Oh, right. So
I'm playing through that again, and at 5 hours, I'm halfway through the game now, which I'm skipping cutscenes, but I don't think that's necessarily a negative, but I think I sort of wanted a little bit more from the game overall. It's basically takes place over 4 sort of day and night cycles. And I sort of wish they had made maybe one more day and night as opposed to having the dungeons that you go through at night being as long as they are. I just got through the second one in the storage facility, which is just a number of really long boss fights, one after another. I think on almost every level, Fractured Butthole is better than Stick of Truth, which, as an Obsidian fan, really pains me in my RPG heart. I think the addition of the sort of strategy RPG grid helps the game out a lot. At the very least, it's always really funny when the kids get their game interrupted by a car driving down the street. And them and the enemies sort of scoot back to the sidewalk and they continue on. I think they did the strategy RPG stuff right, where it's there's a good focus on debuffs, and there's a really smart focus about sort of pushing and pulling enemies on the battlefield. I especially think it's smart of them to, when you have a character that pushes an enemy or knocks an enemy into another one of your party members, the enemy will bounce off the other party member, and that party member will get like a damage bonus, which I think is sort of fun because you're encouraged to sort of bounce enemies around the environment like that. I feel like I almost don't need to talk about the humor because it is South Park, for better or for worse.
South Park, yeah.
I mean, if you don't like South Park, you really shouldn't pick up this game because it's still a South Park RPG.
Right. And that was something like when I was streaming it, I had some people get really offended and upset by some of the humor in the game, and I pretty much said,
that's what it is, man. Like
South Park, man, if you don't like their type of humor that they're going to just mock everybody.
Yep.
Like without any sort of, care on what they think.
I mean, it's one 15-hour long South Park episode with a lot of swearing in it.
Pretty much.
It's same intro, same credits. Like the whole thing has been saved. I think if they make another one of these, which I sort of hope they do, because these are really solid, well-made games. I really hope, this is going to sound like such a weird criticism, I hope they find somewhere else to put the game, because playing through in South Park again with the same map and the same locations minus Canada, it's been 3 years, but it sort of feels a little bit rote. Like, I don't know where else they would go. The town of South Park is sort of a character of the show and the games itself, but not a ton of it has changed in material ways. It's not much bigger than the last game, so playing through the same space is not, it's not bad, but it's not really great. I know that's sort of a weird criticism, but
I feel like if they wanted to like make it different without taking them out of the quiet little mountain town that they live in, they could kind of like make it more with their imagination thrown in,
right? And
really like change, like keep the housing and places in the same spot, but turn them into something else with the understanding of like this is clearly their imagination, like overlaying stuff on top of
that's true
what's there.
Yeah, because like I can respect that. A big part of the show, and especially the game, is the juxtaposition of everybody else in the town living their life and being sick of this roving band of kids that are trying to play superheroes and just kind of messing the whole town up while people are just trying to live their lives.
And they can make it really funny by, like, when they're in that imagination sort of thing, if, like, they get pulled out of it for a moment and you get to see what the town really looks like for a moment, and then just go back to their fantasy world. I think that would work, and you would get a little more variety.
Yeah.
And then, you keep that whole... Because I know a big part of South Park is really... They stay in this one little town where crazy stuff happens, but they could make it different by just using the kids' imagination to make you in a different place.
Yeah. And a lot of the side stuff in there is really good. Collecting the Craig and Tweak Yowie pictures was really great.
Oh my god, I love that. Newsom's like, what are you talking about?
And like, the hard part is, I haven't watched South Park in probably at least 7 or 8 years. So like some of these stuff like Member Berries doesn't play for me. Like PC Principle, no idea. I get some of the older references. Yeah. But some of the newer stuff is funny on its own, but maybe doesn't play as well as some of the other stuff.
That Yowie thing works though.
Yeah, the Yowie thing really does work.
I love that.
I do really like how the game does treat your character differently based on... When I played... The first time I played it on the normal difficulty, but I played as a white character, so it's sort of like an easier normal difficulty because your color, this color of your skin determines the difficulty of the game.
I'm gonna tell you something. It's fake.
I know. And this time, I was a little disappointed how easy it was on normal difficulty.
I pointed that out too, I think, when I first played, that the game was a lot easier, and I kind of felt that I was just rolling through it
you
all.
just sort of roll over everything. I had trouble with, I think, 2 bosses, but mostly, whenever I had trouble with bosses, a lot of it was like, it was down to bad RNG. Like, I got knocked into something, or enemies swarmed me, and, or one of my party members got confused and hit me instead of the enemy. A lot of that stuff, you retry the battle, you clear it the second time.
I think I had the same problem, but what I did was, it was oftentimes I had, like, the wrong teammates for whatever battle I was up against.
Right.
Like, I would bring someone along who I didn't realize, like, oh, this boss is going to be immune to these things, and I was like, oh, if I had only brought so-and-so along, they would have done so much better. They would have been able to knock this guy against the wall, and then... So those were my problems. So it wasn't really a matter of difficulty in terms of the battles being tough. It was more like I had to come back with a better strategy.
Yeah. And that's where the Mastermind difficulty comes in. They added a difficulty above that in a patch after release at some point. But I have seen that doesn't give you the trophy, which is the last one I need to get the platinum. So Mastermind feels a little bit better. I feel like I'm on my toes a little bit more. I still... Playing through it the second time, you sort of know where to pick up, all the yaoi pictures and who needs you to do what to get selfies. So a lot of the thing they do that's really smart is a lot of the collection stuff in the game gives your character experience. And it'll give, like, maybe 75 to 100 experience sometimes, where a random battle might give you 10 to 20. So it really is in your interest to go through and get all of this stuff done while you're sort of wandering around, just to get your character stronger. So doing all that stuff at the same time has made it, on this difficulty, maybe a little bit easy. But I think overall it's good. I sort of wasn't looking forward to playing it when I started it. I was thinking, well, all right, it's up next on my list. How long to beat.com says it's about 16 hours, which was almost on the nose. So I can sit here and I can sort of, bang out a game in 16 hours. And it came with the digital code of the Stick of Truth, and I've sort of been looking at it like, man, maybe I can play through that again. But I don't think I'll go through and play that. But I think if you liked Stick of Truth, and you can, if you either like South Park or you can put up with South Park's humor, I think Fractured But Whole is actually pretty good. It's probably not going to be like RPG of the year. Yeah, let's do this. But I think it's not the most strategic. Like I think, Mina, you mentioned this. There's a sort of a reaction when you get hit. You can hit the X button and gain some super bar, and you can gain a little, like 10% of your health back. But you can just sort of mash the button and it doesn't punish you.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't punish you at all. You can just mash it. I think when I was talking about it when I first played, my biggest complaint was that when I played through the Stick of Truth, I felt like there was a lot more complexity, and I had to do a lot more of, like, I can equip runes onto different types of things, and I felt like there was more options to select on the wheel, and I don't know if I'm right about this. I'd have to go back and play Stick of Truth, but I felt like that game had way more, like, little things to work on, whereas when it comes to Fractured But Whole, everything is like, let me just slap whatever the biggest number is on this.
Yeah, like you craft an upgrade and then you put that on and then you're good.
Put it on.
Yeah, the only time I've had to think about that on Mastermind is now that I'm in the second half of the game. I'm using one of the my character's using one of the super abilities that heals the whole team and gives them a shield. So what I'm using relics that upgrade my healing power. So not only does it heal me more, but gives me more of a shield. But beyond that, that wasn't really necessary in the first playthrough, because the relic system is kind of confusing to begin with, because you expect your character to get stronger as you equip relics that have higher value, but that doesn't always directly correlate. Sometimes it's just giving your skills a boost as opposed to your raw character stats a boost.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a little bit confusing. But yeah, I agree with you. When I think of Stick of Truth, I thought about it a little bit, maybe because they didn't have that strategy RPG grid. I thought that there was a little bit more complexity there, but...
And there was timing in terms of like how you actually had to block in...
Right, and like buff your attacks and stuff.
Because they were going with more of the Super Mario RPG / like style for that. So like when an enemy comes in, like goes to do an attack on you, you block.
Yeah, like right at
button.
impact.
Yeah, and there was like, it was a very satisfying sort of block, whereas like Fractured But Whole, I'm just like tapping the X. I'm like, I'll get it.
For anyone that didn't play, there's like a circle that depletes, and you just have to sort of hit it at any point before it depletes. It's what I would have preferred is if you can hit it at the right time, it gives you like 25% of your health back, or it depletes as that bar depletes. But maybe I'm asking too much complexity out of a game that is maybe focused more on first-time RPG players or like non-experienced RPG players, where Obsidian was making a game that was more like an Obsidian RPG with the South Park stuff on top of it. So I don't think it's, like I said, I don't think it's bad. I almost feel like the two are kind of different starts to a South Park RPG series, and it's almost like Obsidian just didn't get to make their sequel, and South Park, Ubisoft got to make their first game here.
And Ubisoft forced me to download whatever their thing is on my PC.
Uplay? Yeah.
I hate Uplay. I just wanted to play it on Steam. Why'd you make me do that?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, so I think Fractured But Whole is overall good. It's probably not going to be, if it would probably be in my top 10 of last year, just because it's sound and music and voice acting and the look of it, how the characters wobble around, like it's a perfect recreation of South Park. It's just
like the superhero type stuff. I love that.
It's just like not a great RPG. It's solid. Yeah. It's just kind of, you can see all these little tweaks that they could have made to all this stuff that would have made it really, really great. But, maybe I'm just asking for too much. I'm not entirely sure.
I don't think you are, because it's been a while since I played, and the only thing that I remembered was that, like, I think they could have done better in areas.
Yeah.
And it just felt, I don't know. It just felt like it was just missed shy of being a good game.
Yeah.
Like, I felt when I played through Stick of Truth, I felt like I played through clearly a super polished game that they had put in everything they wanted.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put a finger on anything that I would have fixed in that game. Whereas this one, I found like little bits of here and there where it's like, you could have done something here.
Yeah, and it's not like it's unfinished or anything. It's just sort of like, well, when you're planning or designing, you could have just gone like one step more, and it would have been really great, in like these 2 or 3 areas. But yeah, if you enjoyed Stick of Truth, I mean, you probably have played it by this point, and if not, I'd say pick it up. It ran great on console. I'm playing on a PS4 Pro. Load times were a little bit crummy sometimes, but it's nothing like I'm sitting here at a loading screen and it's taking 2 minutes. It's nothing like that. But
I think I complained about the load times too when I was talking about the Steam version.
Yeah, it just seemed like it's a little unoptimized.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's all I've been playing this month, so let's take a break. let's talk RPG releases for March 2018. Final Fantasy 15 finally comes to PC on the 6th. You've probably seen this because of their crazy crossover costumes like Half-Life and The Sims. So if you wanted to dress up like Gordon Freeman in Final Fantasy 15, you totally can, and it looks really ridiculous. I don't think there's a there might be a proper demo out now, but they had a benchmark tool out for a while. That looks really good, and I have like a 1060 in my machine, and it looked really good on that. So give that a shot and put your computer through its paces. It's long though, so just settle in for like a 10-minute benchmark. And last but not least, Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom comes out for PC and PS4 on the 23rd. We spent the majority of our pre-show time sort of wringing our hands about whether or not we should get this. I think we came to the conclusion that all three of us really liked the first one, and we're probably the only three people that did. So we're sort of looking forward to the second one.
Yeah,
it seems good, even though it doesn't have Studio Ghibli, hooked onto it at all. It still looks the same. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to news stories real quick in our famous 5-minute second segment here. Shining Resonance Refrain is getting a release on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch later, summer 2018. October here, yeah. Musa, I think you were the one that added to the show notes. What are you looking forward to on this?
So this is the first Shining Force entry that we've had over here since Shining Force EXA came out for PS2, which is about a decade ago.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to a Shining Force game coming stateside. That said, this doesn't necessarily look like a good Shining Force game. like usually in Shining Force games, you get like a beast guy in your party and like a bird person and a robot, and like they have all these like every ridiculous race they can come up with in the game. And this one, they all look like plain humans. Like evidently one of the females in it is a dragon, but I don't see her being a dragon in your party, so that's an issue. But I guess the shtick around this is it's going to have some sort of music angle.
Interesting.
Hence the resonance refrain. I guess the combat has something to do with music performance stuff during combat. So, but I pre-ordered it. I'm going to pick it up. If it's anything like Exia, or I'm sorry, Exia. I always want to say, because they have a Gundam show named Gundam Exia. Has an I in it. If it's anything like EXA and Neo, it probably won't be super great.
Are you going to pick it up on Switch, though?
Probably.
Yeah.
I went ahead and pre-ordered it for all three just because it's free. I will definitely cancel 2 of those, and it'll probably go Switch.
Yeah. Next news story. This is a heads up. PlayStation Plus will stop offering PS3 and Vita games in 2019. I think it's March 2019. This is especially important because on PS3 and Vita, there have been a ton of RPGs they've offered over the last probably year or two. So that's kind of a bummer. I mean, it's not surprising, but it's kind of a bummer that this time has come already, so a bunch of quote-unquote free JRPGs won't be landing on those platforms anymore.
Yeah. I was always bummed we never got a library function on the Vita to actually see what I own there.
Yeah.
But
and last but not least, development of Shin Megami Tensei 5 has finally started in earnest. Sounds like they have a full team now that Apocalypse and Strange Journey Redux is over, and they're now starting to cook on that thing. So our release is probably a couple of years out now. Give me some time to save up for a Switch, I guess. Yeah. They still haven't said it's coming to anything else, which isn't that surprising, but I think it's pretty safe to say that it's going to be a Switch only for this point, which sounds really great. Having another mobile SMT game is never bad.
I agree. I look forward to spending $400 on its release when they release the Shin Megami Tensei Switch
with
branded console.
With the pentagram Joy-Cons and all that.
That'd be the worst. I'd have to buy a backup set of that because I'm just gonna rub the Joy-Con stuff off.
Here's Mina holding up her. What game did that special 3DS come with?
That was for the Persona Q.
Oh yeah, they're making Q2, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
I can't believe it.
I thought that was just a fever dream I suddenly had. Where it's like, oh, they're making Q2.
It's so exciting to me because I thought for sure we were only going to get that one because I don't think the sales were even that great for the first one. It was just like, because you had to get like an Etrian Odyssey fan who also liked Persona
right.
and was willing to like play that. You were talking like you had to get a niche and someone who was like a fan of that
a niche
style.
and a niche.
And I was like, there's only like a handful of us would enjoy that.
Yeah.
But apparently we get a second one.
It was good.
I feel like we're getting,
I like it.
I feel like they went, what about all those weird one-off games we made? What if we made 2 of each of those? Just 2 dancing games. Here's another...
It stuck a bunch of them together.
How many more fighting games do we need? 3?
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's our episode. We don't have any emails or anything this month, so thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you'd like to visit us, you can do so at pickingupthepixels.com or find out more at e1m1.com about all the network shows. Musin, where can we find you?
You can find me at my other podcast at thecarouselpodcast.com, and you can purchase my music at musim.bandcamp.com, also on iTunes and Spotify.
And Mina, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitch at Minako Rocket, Minako Rocket. And I've also started a second YouTube channel for mobile games because I didn't want to spam my normal subscriber boxes with mobile game stuff. And that channel is Mobile Mina, but it doesn't quite have enough subscribers to do its own special link with the name in it, so you have to kind of search for it, or just follow my Twitter, which is the same, or just check out my normal videos, which will also include the Mobile Mina link.
Nice.
And Boston?
You can find my other show, That Video Game Podcast, at tvgp.tv, or the recent return of Dynamic Soundtrack. DynamicSoundtrack.com for details. If you're a patron, you can get it 2 months early. So go check that out. Thank you, Musim and Mina, for joining me for yet another month.
Pleasure as always.
Thank you.
And our adventure continues next month.